This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
Welcome to Inside the Jungle, your show for Auburn basketball. I am your co-host, Chandler Fullman, and I'm joined alongside my friend Jase Phillips and his dog Lutz. Lutz, what's going on? Okay, cool. So Lutz doesn't have a lot to say. He just kind of looked at me like I got three heads. But Jase, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, Chandler. Feeling tired, but doing good.
So Auburn basketball season is officially over.
It is.
The Tigers ended the season 21-13 on the year, and just real quick, initial thoughts on the season as a whole.
I thought with the roster that we had, and just kind of with the level of competition there was this year, I felt like this was, obviously the standards changed since Bruce has gotten here and made the Final Four and all of that. But for the roster we have and for the schedule we had, I felt like it was a pretty successful season to not only make the big dance but also get to the round of 32.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't say we overachieved, but I also wouldn't say we underachieved.
Not at all.
I would say we about met expectations. I think from the beginning, this was kind of technically a rebuilding year,
Right.
if you would say that. And
but this was not a bad year by any means.
No,
I've seen several comments of people just kind of talking about how disappointing of a year it is. And let me tell you, if a disappointing year and for Auburn basketball now is making the round of 32, then I'll take it.
Then they weren't around for Tony Barbie.
Nope, they were not.
Because you're talking about disappointment. Tony Barbie is the definition of disappointment. But I won't get too sidetracked by that awful man. Sorry, Tony, if you're listening. But Bruce Pearl, yes, has obviously gotten Auburn to a new standard, new expectations, and has Auburn basketball to a new place. And that is a good thing that Auburn has going for them. But let's go ahead and review the two games of the NCAA tournament real fast, and then we can talk about kind of the season as a whole, the roster turnover, and things like that. But Jase, why don't you start us with Iowa?
All right. Well, first of all, I got to attend this game, and let me just tell you, that was so much fun. Not only getting to go to a tournament game, but just to kind of see the turnout, and just to kind of see Legacy Arena turn into Neville Arena away from home. It was a lot of fun, great atmosphere. I was really proud with the way we played, and especially in the second half pulling away. The biggest takeaway, for me from that game, looking towards the future, was what we got out of Trey Donaldson.
Yeah, I was highly impressed with Trey. Watching that Iowa game from home, sadly, because I am a teacher and I have to work, but I think Auburn got a major favor in getting to play in Birmingham, Birmingham. Getting to play in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena. I think that was, because Birmingham's only 2 hours from Auburn. So getting to play there was a major favor from the committee, and I think Auburn took advantage of that opportunity.
Definitely.
Auburn defeated Iowa. And what do you think the keys to the game were, Jase?
I think a big key was, especially for most of the game, obviously there at the end they started hitting them, but I felt like we defended the 3-point shot about as good as we could. They really struggled from three at the beginning of the game, and really for most of the first half, and really those last few minutes sort of turned it on. getting the ball in the paint, I felt like was huge. Janai Broome, 19 points, 12 rebounds. Janai has struggled in some of these bigger games against better opponents down the stretch. And so to see him really going to just take over that game, I mean, they really had no answer for Janai Broome there for a big part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was surprising to me because Iowa has their starting lineup. I'm not going to get this exactly correct, but I know that it is tall.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
a long team.
The shortest starter, I think, was like 6'3", and then 6'5" shooting guard, 6'7" small forward, 6'9" power forward, and maybe like 6'10" center. That's a big team. And for Janai to be the force that he was during that game, what says a ton about Janai and about hopefully his future next year with the Auburn Tigers. And I also want to mention just I think on the last episode we talked about how Auburn had to have all 5 guys in force in order to succeed. And Auburn had 5 guys. It wasn't the 5 guys maybe that we thought, excluding, I believe, KD Johnson.
Yeah.
But you substitute Trey Donaldson in for KD, and Auburn had all 5 guys in double digits. Yeah. With Trey Donaldson, Alan Flanagan, Wendell Green, Jalen Williams, and Janai Broome all being in double digits. And I think that
KD was in double digits too. So add that to the 5.
So,
and I mean, when you've got 6 guys in double digits, I mean, you're not going to lose many basketball games, if any.
No, that is a ton of diversified scoring, and that shows true team basketball.
Yeah. I mean, even like the rebounding that we got when they came in. I mean, we had Flanagan, I mean, not only scoring 10 points, but also getting 10 boards.
Yeah, that was huge from Allen, and I cannot say enough good things about how Alan Flanagan kind of had a rebound year from last year. He struggled last year all around, and then this year he was kind of back to his freshman self and was a kind of a standout. I would say the 3 best players for Auburn this year were Janai Broome, Wendell Green, and Alan Flanagan.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Jalen Williams, he contributed a lot, so I don't want to leave him out.
He did. But it does seem like when it came to a big game and a big moment when we really needed him, those 3 are the ones that did rise up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But let's move on and go ahead and talk about the Houston basketball game. And I think my Bammer friend, I don't know if I should say his name on this podcast, Hunter Johnson, may say it best when he says, but he talks about Alabama basketball like this, but he says it was a tale of 2 halves.
Yep.
And that could not be more true with the Auburn game versus Houston. And I think, was it last episode that I said Auburn, when playing at its best, can beat anybody in the nation.
Yeah.
Auburn, when they're not playing as good, they can get defeated by anybody in the nation.
I agree.
And, buddy, we saw that all in one game.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and a lot of it was the game plan. I mean, for Houston in the second half. I mean, credit to Coach Sampson and Houston for coming out. I mean, they shut us down in the second half. I mean, we came out, we didn't have the same intensity. I mean, to come out up by 10 on a 1 seed and you've got a lot of fans behind you. I mean, yeah. I don't necessarily know that it's that, we weren't ready as much as they just really made good adjustments. Yep. And, you've got to make free throws to win games. We shot 52% from the free throw line, 19 for 36. I mean, you can't miss free throws and beat teams that are better than you.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. It seemed like at the end of the game they were fouling Janai on purpose because they knew.
Why wouldn't you? You know,
they knew that he was not going to make free throws. And I'm not bashing Janai by any means, but that was just kind of a.
But it seems to be a struggle. I mean, I've seen it across college basketball this year. It is rare to find a player that consistently makes free throws.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the SEC, and I mean, I'm not saying that the definition of a good free throw shooter is 90%.
No.
I mean, that's a great free throw shooter.
Right.
But free throw shooters, I would say above 75%. I would say are solid free throw shooters.
Right.
And there's not that many above 75%.
No.
In the nation
Nope.
or in the SEC.
Nope.
But yes, Houston was definitely a tale of two halves. Auburn led 41-31 at halftime. During the second half, Auburn got outscored 50-23. Let me say that again. 50-23. Got outscored by 27 points. And I do think Auburn played very bad basketball the second half, but I think a ton of it was just what Houston did. I mean, complimenting Houston's style of play and their efforts, I think had a lot to do with how Auburn played. And that was just quite unfortunate, but that's how it went.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, I know that, they can, he can say he wasn't 100%. He was hurt, whatever. But let me just tell you that Sasser, he could have fooled me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 5 for 9 from the 3-point line, 22 points.
Sasser what's that other guard's name?
Shed.
Shed.
He had 10 and a big game for Trayvon Mark. He had 26 points and 9 rebounds.
Oh yeah, Trayvon Mark. He was making everything in that second half. I mean, that dude was on fire. But overall, a good, fun season of Auburn basketball, and who knows? I mean, with Bruce Pearl at the helm, I think you got to trust Bruce Pearl.
Definitely.
But now, I guess we will get into the story of roster. How the roster will look next year, and I don't think it'll look at all similar to this year.
No.
And I mean, we will just have to see how many people transfer
or come back.
How many people come back? What kind of newcomers we get? I mean,
and boy, is there a ton of them out there. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
College basketball. I mean, it has the transfer portal, just like any collegiate sport now. It has changed it completely. I mean, you can go from being the worst team in the NIT one year to maybe having a chance to make a national title run the next year. I mean, it has changed that much.
Yeah, I would agree. And Fairleigh Dickinson, they went 4-22 last year.
Yeah.
4 wins and 22 losses, and then this year they win their conference tournament, and then they go into, I don't know where the game was played, but they go in and play Purdue, a number 1 seed, and defeat Purdue, the number 1 seed. And Purdue, I think I remember this, is one of the biggest, tallest teams in the nation.
Yes, I believe they are the tallest.
Yeah.
And Fairleigh Dickinson, I believe, is the shortest.
The shortest or smallest team in the nation. That just shows you, on any given night, any team can beat anybody.
That's why we play games in March.
If they believe. Thanks, John Rothstein. But yes, that's what makes college basketball so special. And I mean, I think college baseball is similar, but college football, I mean,
you see some upsets.
I mean, there's going to be upsets, but no, there's not. You're not going to see, Fairleigh Dickinson go up against the University of Alabama and defeat University of Alabama's football team. That's just not going to happen. But in college basketball, upsets are possible, and upsets will happen. And we have seen proof of that in this tournament. But
I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I want to say Fairleigh Dickinson led a good part of that game, if not most of all of it.
Yeah, they did. But getting back to Auburn, we have learned in the past few days that Yohan Traore has entered the transfer portal, and I think that was kind of to be expected.
Yeah.
With Janai potentially coming back, Jalen Williams potentially taking his COVID year and coming back. I think that was kind of to be expected because Yohan struggled this year.
He did.
We did not see a whole lot from Yohan, and I think that potentially is a good move for both sides. Yohan and Auburn could benefit from that. But the surprise was Chance Westry. Yeah. I will say that Chance Westry, he did less than Yohan this year. I mean, he redshirted most of the year. But Chance Westry was expected to be a big-time part of the team next year.
Yeah.
And to hear his name entered into the transfer portal was a pretty big surprise for myself. What did you think about that, Jase?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big surprise. I mean, Chance is someone that I think Bruce saw a lot of potential in, and, I felt like he could have really been a big piece of this team. And I will say that it's hard to really know what we're going to miss not having him or what we won't miss not having him because, he only played a little this year, and he didn't show anything that just, mesmerized you or made you think, oh, man, I can't wait till he's healthy. But he also was a freshman, and he also played very few games, so it was kind of hard to tell. So definitely a big shocker, but I definitely don't know that he was a player that, the next big thing to where you can't get someone as talented.
Yeah, I agree. And who knows what is left to come. I mean, everybody's heard rumors here, rumors there.
Right.
But until we see definitive proof that they have entered the transfer portal or they say they're leaving, we're not going to speculate anything because I don't feel like that's right to do. But I will say Aiden Holloway.
Man, that Matt Donald's
I'm excited about that.
Did you watch that Matt Donald's All-American game?
I did not.
Wow. He showed out. I believe he had 17 points. Wow. 17 points. And I know he had 17 in the third quarter, and he could have scored again, but believe it or and I understand that those are not necessarily games where you're just playing the players that are scoring, but he really did not touch the ball or play very much in the second half. Because I believe he either had 10 or 12 at the half and only played. So he scored 17 points, and don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure it's 17. It could be more, but I know it's at least 17. And he did not hardly play many minutes. But I do know that when he was in, I believe his team was down by, I think, 16. And when he came in, they went on a run to cut it to about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Ending with a 3 right before the buzzer at half.
Yeah. And, I've seen highlights of Aiden. I'm very excited about his potential and what he will bring to the team.
He's got a very, very good basketball IQ, and, and they interviewed him, at the game, and, they were asking him about, players he looked up to and why he looked up to him, and, I can't remember exactly what player he said, but, the reason he said he looked up to him was just his smarts of the game of basketball and his IQ and how he was able to read things and know, different play designs or zone, be able to identify zones right away and just knowing the game. And I felt like that was something that was huge, and he gave Auburn a shout out talking about how playing in front of the jungle and obviously just how impactful Bruce has been in his recruitment and all the reasons that he chose Auburn and really highlighted Auburn, but he just knows how to get to the goal.
Yep.
And I feel like, that's something that Jared Harper could do and Sharif Cooper could do so well. And seeing him just get to the goal so easy, and even against bigger defenders and being able to draw those fouls, that's something that is really, really going to be big having on the court. And the ability to just flat out shoot. I mean, he can shoot from anywhere on the court. He can pull up from mid-range. He can pull up from three. He's just a pure shooter and pure scorer, and that's something that we really kind of missed this year, just having that consistent guy that we could go to in those big moments when we needed it.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you said. We missed the big guy in the moment this year, big time.
Multiple games.
Yes, multiple games. We missed that guy.
Right. And that's not a knock to what we have, but if you give us that guy with what we have, I mean, it makes everybody else that much better.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yep.
So.
I agree.
I mean, and I think that something that would be huge is if we could, having somebody like Aiden and Wendell playing with Aiden, is Wendell would have opportunities to get open shots off the ball. And I think that that's something that would really increase his ability to not only get open from three, but his percentage would go up, I think.
Yeah.
Being able to play off the ball and get those open shots.
Yeah, I think the point guard position, we're pretty set. I mean, whether it be Wendell, whether it be Aiden, whether it be Trey Donaldson, I think we're in pretty good shape.
I agree.
Point guard wise.
What would you say would be our two biggest needs going into next year, position wise?
I think a 2-guard, a shooting guard that can shoot the 3 ball is a huge need for Auburn. And I believe a small forward would be the other need. We think that Alan Flanagan's coming back, but who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
You got Chris Moore. You don't know. You forget about Chris Moore sometimes, but he could potentially come back. But
yeah, I would love to see a 3-guard or a 2 and a 3 that could play some good quality minutes.
Yeah. I'd also like to get one, and I know that I told you too, but I feel like we really kind of have one other big need is to get one more big that can really compete with Janai. And not only push Janai, but kind of just be there to not only can play with Janai, but also that can come in off the bench and consistently score. Dylan Cardwell plays with as much heart and passion as anybody on our team, but he's just always kind of struggled to score the basketball. He's always defended the ball pretty well, and he plays harder than anybody. And that's what I love about Dylan, but he has struggled to score some, so having another big that can come in and give you some points and some rebounds down low, I think would be a huge addition to help Janai out.
Yeah, I think that we could use another big, like you said, but Jase, right now I'm putting you on the spot, and I know there's going to be a lot of additions. Hopefully not a lot of subtractions, but we know of 2 already. Starting lineup, if you had to make the starting lineup with the people that are going to be, or that we think are going to be on Auburn basketball next year, what is your starting lineup? No pressure.
With the players we've got right now that are still on the team.
With the players that we have and the players that we have coming in, high school-wise, because none of the transfer portal people have been announced, what would you think would be your starting lineup?
I think my starting lineup would be Aiden Holloway at the 1. I think that either Wendell or KD at the 2. Kind of depending on who kind of beats who out. At 3, I think you've got Flanagan. If something happens to where Flanagan goes pro, or he does foresee other options other than Auburn, then I think maybe you see a guy like Chris Moore get a chance at that role. Yeah. I think at the 4, obviously, if Jalen comes back, I think it's pretty obvious he would have a good shot of getting that 4. Okay. But if Flanagan's back, that could potentially also be Chris Moore at the 4 if Jalen were to leave and Flanagan were to come back, and then obviously Janai at the 5. But I think that I'm very interested to see just between Aiden Holloway and Wendell and Katie and Trey. I mean, you could potentially see Trey and Aiden be your 1 and 2. I mean, I'm not ruling out that possibility, but I think it's really a toss up there with those 4 guards. But I'm having confidence that I think Aiden Holloway, whether he's the 1 or 2, he will be in the starting lineup.
Well, we will see. And I think our last bit of discussion, really quick, is just your thoughts on the NCAA tournament so far this year and the Final Four. Who's going to win it all?
Well, who would have thought? I mean, not having a single 1 seed, 2 seed, or 3 seed in the Final Four. I mean, I sure wouldn't have thought it. And honestly, looking at the 4 teams that are there, one of them I thought had a good shot of getting there, but the other 3, UConn, I thought they had a legitimate good shot to get there. But the other 3, man, that is an interesting and a fun Final Four I'm looking forward to. But to answer your question, I think that UConn gets it done. And as much as I'm pulling for Florida Atlantic to go all the way. I'm afraid their luck might run out. They're not luck, but I'm afraid, their offense might run out because San Diego State's defense, I think, is just going to be too much for Florida Atlantic.
You better not say luck with Florida Atlantic.
No,
I mean, they're 35-3 on the year.
They are, but I didn't mean luck. Their offensive power here in this off season, I think it's not enough against that Aztec defense, but I do think that UConn will cut down the nets, and I think they'll get it done just simply because I don't think San Diego State can score enough to beat UConn. But something interesting that I did learn about UConn is that they have 3 players that are actively Muslim, and Ramadan is going on right now, and so their diet window, they can only eat at certain times of the day, and so they will not be able to eat before that game against Miami, but in that diet window. So that might not have anything to play into it, but I'm just thinking you're playing a game to advance to the national championship. That's just an interesting fact I learned, the other day. That could really play a role in that game.
Jase he's doing his research here. I love it. Doing research for the Inside the Jungle podcast. I mean, when you come to Inside the Jungle, you better expect to hear the most discreet, hardcore, intense facts from Jase Phillips, because Jase will provide you with those. But for my opinion, I'm going to say FAU pulls it out.
I hope you're right.
And I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to say Miami. This is what I'm hoping for. Yeah. I don't know if this will happen. I think any one of the 4 teams, I think any one of the 4 could win a national championship.
I agree.
But what I'm hoping for is a Southern Florida national championship. FAU versus Miami. The 2 campuses are, I think, probably 20 to 30 miles apart. How epic would it be to see a Southern Florida FAU versus Miami national championship? That would be amazing.
I think that would be awesome. And honestly, that is what I'm rooting for as well. But I went with my heart and my bracket, and I saw where that got me. And so I'm kind of starting to go with my brain now, and that's why I'm picking San Diego State and UConn. But I hope that I'm proven wrong again.
Well, my brain, I did a brain bracket and I did a heart bracket, and my heart bracket's doing way better than my brain bracket. Well, so who knows what will happen? This is college basketball, and I'm trying to think of some John Rothstein quote right now, but I can't think of one.
Well, and who knows? One of these players, especially from a place like Florida Atlantic, where, it's just a smaller school, and the opportunities in the NIL realm, they might not be as big. Who knows? A player on that roster could be your next Auburn Tiger.
That's right. But we will see. And I think that's about it for the 2022-2023 Auburn Tigers basketball season. Unless you have anything else, Jase.
I think that's about it.
Well, until next time, we are signing off. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.